to uplift what we need to do going forward so our kids can be free, so our grandkids can be free, so we won't see lynchings again, so we won't see police brutality again. That's why we're here today.
Juneteenth is a celebration of steps, centuries of steps toward equality, toward making America what it has always claimed to be. That first step out of bondage in 1865 to the steps of today of the protesters in the streets, up the steps of the state capitol, to where Colorado's governor signed historic police reform today, a law brought about by the sound of footsteps from protesters outside. It seems more American eyes are on this Juneteenth than any other. If they're looking at Colorado, they see a state responding rapidly to long-term concerns, spurred to take those steps by the names we now know.
Ahmaud Arbery, Tony McDade, Jamal Floyd, George Floyd.
A Juneteenth celebration of steps taken and steps to come.
So we will stand with our community to the end, till we get the justice that we need, till we get the freedoms that we need, till we get the liberation that we need. We'll be right here fighting for our communities.
Colorado is taking a $1 million step today toward addressing one aspect of systemic racism, the way the world of giving works. Nonprofits, where a nonprofit leader recently said that black nonprofits get tested while others get trusted. Our Anusha Roy talked to the Denver Foundation about its $1 million idea.
It's been in the works for a long time.
The problem of systemic racism is too big for just one organization to solve. So the Denver Foundation established the Black Resilience in Colorado Fund.
That would support communities of color, especially those led by Black professionals that are serving Black and immigrant refugee communities.
Wow, they see us.
It is a simple but profound reaction from the executive director of the Center of Trauma and Resilience.
When you don't have access to wealth, you are overlooked. It is absolutely not what you know, but who you know.
You know, they're oftentimes disconnected from traditional philanthropy and from other sources of revenue.
Well, I think it happens because we aren't at the table.
We can go back, especially today on Juneteenth, we can go back 155 years and beyond to answer those kinds of questions.
I would agree with that.
It was the last couple of months with COVID-19 disproportionately impacting minority communities in Colorado and the recent wave of civil unrest as the country reckons with racism that gave impetus to this fund.
Our resources at the Denver Foundation are finite and are not sufficient to solve these deep systemic problems in our society, but they can be catalytic.
It's definitely not all that we need, but it will make a difference.
So the Denver Foundation is now opening this up to the community. So far, they have about $500,000 in donations. They're hoping to reach $1 million within a year. And they're going to be opening up these applications in the middle of July. And Kyle, they said they're going to be giving these grants out on a rolling basis.
Have they talked to Anusha about how they might divvy this money up? But you could divide $1 million ways, a bunch of different ways.
Yeah, so basically the grants are going to be anywhere from $5,000 to $25,000 increments. And Kathy, who you just heard from in the story, said, you know, on the higher end, a $25,000 grant could help them launch an entirely new program and find a way to make it sustainable.
All right. We will certainly keep an eye on their work. Anusha Roy, thank you very much. Colorado's Democratic establishment, from Governor Jared Polis to Senator Michael Bennet, rushing to the rescue of John Hickenlooper's struggling Senate campaign today. The one-time lock on the Democratic nomination has had a series of stumbles, and when Hickenlooper's opponent, Andrew Romanoff, released a negative ad today calling out Hickenlooper's ethics violations, well, prominent Democrats came piling in to defend the former governor.
You gotta ask yourself, why does John Hickenlooper take so many showers? I mean, he'll never wash out the stain of oil and gas money. We can't take this kind of risk if we're going to be Cory Gardner.
You recognize those images from an old Hickenlooper for Governor ad where he showered in his clothes to make a point about dirty politics. It looks like Romanoff has closed the Democratic Senate primary race, where it appeared for a while that Hickenlooper had an insurmountable lead, but Hickenlooper's done a series of face plants on issues involving ethics and the Black Lives Matter movement. So now, to the rescue. Governor Polis, previously neutral in the race, tweeted today, "I'm disappointed that Andrew Romanoff has chosen to throw mud and attack John Hickenlooper instead of focusing on his own vision and record. I hope that Andrew reconsiders this counterproductive attack ad so that we can put Democrats in the best position to win in November." Governor Polis's pearl clutching is especially rich because he helped to create the ethics law that Hickenlooper twice violated while in office. That is what is being highlighted in the negative ad, which of course now is getting a ton more attention because the Democratic establishment freaked out about it. The most Colorado thing we saw today came out of the state's budget briefing. I'll quote, "Less tourism means lower marijuana sales." You think? Left side of the graph is counties that had lower pot sales in April, or counties that rely on tourism. Denver, Eagle, Pickens, Summit. The color on the right, lighter, is where more people are buying marijuana these days. Suburban counties, Adams and Arapahoe up top. This is just some of what the COVID-19 pandemic has done to our state's finances. Marshall Zellinger takes a closer look.
I'm not going to lie, budget meetings are boring. I mean, look at this chart, and this one, and this one. Well, actually, this one's easy to follow. Just look at the size of the bars, not the colors. The bar on the far left shows money the state spent or saved in 2018 and 19. It drops suddenly this year because of COVID-19 cuts from March until now. It drops even more for the budget year starting in July. And then in 1 year, after cutting more than $3 billion, the state is projected to have almost half of that back, which is good news received as not so good news.
Grateful for the additional resources. We're still $1.5 billion short.
We were able to close this gap, at least 50% of it, because we had the federal help, which we might not have next year. And so things are pretty rough unless we get more federal assistance.
Federal assistance is what has helped our personal income. This chart on the left shows our income levels drop in March when stay-at-home orders went into effect, and then rose in April when stimulus checks and extra federal unemployment payments started. At the same time, our personal savings grew almost 200%. Since we were at home and didn't have anywhere to spend our money. The belief is that we'll eventually spend that savings boosting economic growth, which we'll need since the federal assistance will soon start to go away.
In the last 2 days, I've covered the economy and science. There's a reason I went to school for journalism. There's still a clear divide at the Capitol about how taxpayer dollars are being spent. The legislature, the JBC, handles the budget and it gets approved by the governor. But right now, the governor is spending federal tax dollars through executive order for federal relief of COVID-19 without input from the legislature. And a 7-year veteran of the JBC, Republican Senator Bob Rankin, likened it to a family planning a budget, and then one of the parents starts spending on a credit card outside of what was planned in advance.
Oh, yeah, Dad's betting on the ponies. Yep, I've heard about that kind of thing. So I understand this is a very serious story, Marshall, but viewer feedback is serious as well. We received viewer feedback this week from a woman who would like you to wear the Elton John glasses that are on the shelf behind you in one of your live reports sometime when the subject matter allows.
They don't fit around my ears. I'll work on separating it a little bit.
That's right. Work on it. The viewers must get what the viewers want. Thank you, Marshall. RTD is going to force its employees to take 9 furlough days, and the way that they're structuring them, 5 on set days, 4 others taken 1 at a time, that system means that RTD employees cannot file for traditional unemployment benefits. An RTD spokesperson straight up acknowledged what they're doing here. Agency said that they're forcing those single furlough days to, quote, allow RTD to limit exposure to unemployment claims. RTD is self-insured for unemployment, so when employees file, they pay for it. Spacing out the days means RTD gets to keep more of that money. The DACA fight isn't over. The president says they'll challenge it again. Tonight, you will meet a DACA recipient you already know. Really? And preparing for a Father's Day, passing love through a pane of glass at a senior living center. Next. I'm warning you, for your own personal safety, The birds are back at Sloan's Lake. Those angry birds, like the game, only it's real life.
It seems like this time of year in the early summer, they like to protect their nests, which are over here, so they like to kind of buzz you.
Like when he came after me. Ah! Or this guy a few times. Or me again. Or this guy, but not this guy.
I'm sorry. Marshall Zellinger reports to us that the dive-bombing birds in his famous piece from last year are back in action at Sloan's Lake. These are blackbirds that are protecting their nests. They appear to target people who are moving quickly, like runners. So I am safe, but if you are one of those people who exercises, you need to be aware.
Wonderful rain showers today and cooler temperatures in the 60s. The average high is 83 and we're headed back into the mid-80s tomorrow. Tomorrow is the start of summer, but we're looking at some summertime thunderstorms out on the far eastern plains. The threat for severe weather in east central Colorado, but the showers coming to an end in Denver. And once the showers move out tonight, there'll be some areas of fog on the far eastern plains and then a beautiful kickoff to the weekend as sunshine warms us into the mid-80s. Cloudy and cool tonight, low 49 with showers ending. That fog burns off. We get to 85 tomorrow, close to 90 for Father's Day on Sunday, and then introduce a couple of thunderstorms for Monday and Tuesday of next week.
President Trump is now claiming that his administration did not really lose at the Supreme Court yesterday when the justices rejected the administration's challenge to DACA, the program that prevents the deportation of people who were brought to the United States illegally when they were children. The president says that they will challenge DACA again. There are 15,000 DACA recipients, so-called dreamers, in Colorado. A word from Arsenio Gutierrez about that.
My job as a journalist is to tell stories, to elevate the voices and experiences of everyone in our community. It's been my honor to share your stories, and now I want to tell you mine. My most important work as a journalist was done with DACA. When hurricanes destroyed our communities in South Carolina and Texas, I made sure that important life-saving information was being translated in Spanish. That work made a difference. That work was done with DACA. I've had the chance to make a difference with so many of my stories and to represent so many different voices, including those who don't support DACA. It's been hard, I'm not gonna lie. It was hard to interview people who fundamentally disagreed with my existence here in the States. I was brought here when I was 2 from Mexico. But it wasn't hard because of what they thought. I respected it. And as a journalist, I made sure I represented their voice fairly every single time. It was hard because I wanted so bad to let them know that the reporter sitting across from them, making them feel comfortable, supported, and empowered, had DACA herself. Now that my family and I have legal status, I feel comfortable sharing with you this side of who I am. I'm a compassionate, strong, and dedicated journalist today because I was a dreamer. My job remains to tell your stories fairly. And now, you know mine.
The long separation for families split up by the pandemic continues through Father's Day. One daughter offers a special message. And if you're looking for joy, we found that too, as Denver's dog parks open at last. Colorado State epidemiologist again said today that getting visitors into long-term care facilities, even just with a medically cleared 48-hour guest pass to go see somebody, she said that is still a work in progress. So those residents will remain isolated from family and friends. One daughter said that it was okay for Chris Vanderveen to share her family's story as we head into Father's Day weekend, so long as it carried one request.
On the inside, looking out, it is how Richard Jenkins sees his daughter through glass, separate. A Korean War veteran, Jenkins served his country in the 50s. He was very proud of his service, wrote his daughter Yolanda. A breast cancer survivor, Yolanda says her dad was a huge advocate for me during my journey. So now it's my turn to be an advocate for my father. I am heartbroken because he is slipping away in front of my eyes from isolation. Richard Jenkins is 87. Like many fathers living life inside a long-term care facility in Colorado, he will spend this Father's Day apart from sons and daughters, only able to visit on phones or through windows. Yolanda writes, Governor Polis, take time to listen and help many other people in the same situation. It is absolutely ridiculous. Bars, casinos, restaurants are open, while moms and dads are stuck, locked in their rooms. Life on the inside, looking out into a world that has yet to come up with a viable solution to this. Chris Vanderveen, 9 News.
It is a Friday Good News First in the history of next, and also something that you need to know about next week when we return. Some quick breaking news. Federal judge just extended the restraining order keeping Denver police from using force against peaceful protesters for another week. Your good news this week, the reopening of Denver's dog parks today. Our Word of Thanks project this week is in support of the program for LGBTQ seniors at the Center on Colfax, celebrating elders in that community as they celebrate Pride. And next viewers raised $35,000 in 3 days. That is more than a third of the Center on Colfax's total goal for their virtual Pride celebrations this weekend. So thank you so much for that. Hey, real quick, next week you will only see me here for a pre-taped Word of Thanks segment Wednesday. I will be on furlough from 9 News, so along with not anchoring next week, I also won't be able to answer any of your questions or have conversations like we typically do on social media. Know that probably many of you have taken furloughs from your jobs as well as a result of the current economic situation. It's just one impact of the pandemic and the slowdown. We are going to have an opportunity next week on Word of Thanks to do something really special for a group that is feeling isolated in our community due to the pandemic. I'm going to miss seeing you here and our daily social media conversations from when we wake up until when we go to bed. But the team that brings you next every day is going to keep working hard, so you will be in very good hands until I see you next time.